Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Brij from Pune, India, and this is my assignment for week 4 of the Introduction to Music Production course. This week we learned about dynamic processors, and so today I will speak about two of them, gates and compressors, and how I'll show you how they can be used with my DAW Ardor. To save on time, I've already done the required setup for this assignment. I have recorded a piece of guitar sample, and you will just notice that this sample has a lot of hum here and a lot of clipping, and this is what we'll try to rectify using the processors. The processors I am using are from a plugin called Calf. I have a gate and a compressor, and I'm using Ardor DAW version number 3. The way I've connected it to the signal flow is through inserts. The flow comes into the track, guitar track, goes into insert 1, that is the gate, comes back, goes into insert 2, that is the compressor, comes back, and then to the track fader. I shall not touch the track fader, but I have kept the main fader low to keep the volume down and not cause any issues with the sound that you're listening to. Before we show the demo, let me first discuss the parameters that are common to all dynamic processors. The most important parameter is the threshold. Threshold is the level at which the dynamic processor starts to function. So if I can just keep the ratio here, you will notice that as I move the threshold, the point of change moves. You'll also notice that in the case of a gate, the change happens below the threshold, the amplitude below the threshold. So the gate is limiting the amplitudes which are at the lower level. And in case of a compressor, the effect is taking place on the amplitudes above the threshold. Now, the next important parameter for us to look at is ratio. Now, ratio decides the extent of the change after the threshold. So, we can keep it 1, in which case there is no change whatsoever, or we can keep it as infinity. So anything in between is the ratio. 3.3 here means 3.3 is the input and 1 is the output. That is the percentage change, the ratio change that happens from this point to this point. So if I keep it infinity, nothing is heard above this amplitude and therefore is limiting. Similarly, if I keep infinity here, nothing is heard below this amplitude and therefore it is limiting. We also have attack and release, and they cannot be seen here directly, but the lower values of attack and release means that it immediately makes a change as soon as the input signal hits the parameters. The problem with keeping it too low is that it can be very jarring. So the normal intent is to keep the attack low and the release slightly high, and this gives a better music. Finally, we come to knee. So if we keep the knee low, you'll notice that there's a sharp change at the point of threshold. Now that kind of change again can be very jarring. If you keep higher levels of knee, that change is smoothened out. The way it does it is once the knee is set up, it actually starts changing just before the threshold. So that way the curve smooths out and it is much more clearer to hear. Now to the practical demo. I'll keep the master fader low, but you can see the level spiking as well as the hum by looking at the fader for guitar 1. So I'll just loop in the hum area, and as you can see, there's a lot of hum coming in. And the way to reduce that hum would of course be to work on the gate. So this is the audio signal that I want completely cancelled out. So I'll just take the threshold up there, and I'm keeping the ratio limiting to infinity, as you can notice. So I'll just take it up here. Yes. Now it goes through the whole cycle. The input is coming, but the output is very barely perceptible with just one bounce over there. Even that I can manage by just going threshold slightly up. And now there's almost no output for the entire spectrum of the input. Of course, I can take the threshold up a lot more, but I don't want to do that because we do want some guitar signal to come through. Now for the guitar signal part, I want to remove the clipping. So I'll just take it here. Now we'll just work on the clipping area. So if you notice, the compressor is going way out over the 0 dB FS area, and the clipping is very perceptible and noticeable. So I I've set a threshold at somewhere around this area, and I'm going to set the ratio so that the volume is brought down below 0 dBFS. Essentially, compression happens. Yeah, and I think this is about okay. So if there's clipping happening here, but we notice that the output has no clipping. To see the result of our dynamic processing, I'll just record the guitar track going through the dynamic processes into a new track called post-processing. You will quickly notice that the hum is completely cancelled out. Also notice that the clipping has been removed. This red here is no longer there. And that is how we know that this has worked properly. Hope you like the presentation and have got a feel for gates and compressors. Remember the words threshold, ratio and knee when working on the gates. Attack and release are the other two parameters to keep in mind. I hope this has been helpful and thank you for your time.